ابوها.
Okay, we can start.
Hello.
So, good morning, everybody. Warm welcome, and particularly a very warm welcome to Raed Alabat and Elikriona, who join us from Moria, Lesbos today. We would like to hold this press briefing in English, and I hope this is okay for everybody, particularly for the journalists joining us. If not, please send us a mail or give us a note via the chat function. Before we start, just some brief technical information. This briefing will be streamed via YouTube and it will be recorded. So if you miss out anything, you can later also have the recording. Please note that the host, my colleague Nora, will mute you while the others are speaking, but of course at the very end of this press briefing there will be an opportunity for a Q&A round. Then if you have a question, you could write in the chat an exclamation mark, your name and your outlet, your question, and then we will call on you or you raise the blue hand. Yeah, and now I'm pleased to briefly introduce you today's speakers. Raed Alabat, who's currently in Lesbos, is active with the White Helmets Moria. He will report about the current situation at Moria and also about the demands of the people who are stuck there. Please note that he is from Syria, that Raed is from Syria, not from Afghanistan, as it was in the invitation, and please apologize for possible confusion. Then we have Greek lawyer Elikriona. She represents many refugees from Moria, and she will explain a little on the legal background in Greece and also of some details of the EU-Turkey detail that basically also led to the situation we have now. Lucia Gennadi is also a lawyer from Italy, and she's been involved in accompanying refugees on ships and people stuck in the hotspots in Italy, which is another example of the failure of the European asylum system. Karl Kopp of German NGO Pro Asyl has been dealing with the situation of refugees for years, if not decades, all over Europe. And he will explain why only a fundamental reform of the European asylum system could guarantee a humane procedure legal process. Last but not least, we have lawyer Berenice Böhlo, a longtime expert in legal assessment and representation of asylum seekers here in Germany. She will comment on the current discussion in Germany and also on the role of German government, particularly during its EU presidency and its role regarding the European asylum system. Yeah, but now I give the floor to Raed Alabat and the floor is yours, Raed.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Raed Alabat. I'm from Syria. I came here to Lesbos Island since 9th of December 2019. And I am the RAV community leader, especially for the Syrian people here in Moria camp. Also, I am the founder and the leader for Moria White. Hello. Hello.
We might have some problems with the sound, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I am the leader also for the Moria White Helmet. So what happened here in Moria, it's very hard for everybody. Now the people, they are stuck at the streets, at the tomb points, and near Karachapa point and near Al-Salam Center, the humanity center right now. I'm here near Al-Salam Center in Moria camp. So it is very hard situation for everybody. We're trying our best for helping people, advising, learning them, especially we now attacking and from the COVID-19. So we spread already the messages for everybody. The people here, it's very angry right now. They are in bad situation, bad conditions, no shelters, no services, nothing at all for everybody. So now we saw a lot of NGOs. Just now they came at the ground, and I don't know, they're trying to help people. So the question now from the ground right now, and from my community as Arabs, especially the Syrian people, they're asking where they are before those people. Why just now all these people just appear for everybody? So it is very hard for us. Now we are trying also to tell our people to move to the new camp as soon as possible. This is from me, my messages already now. I'm advising people, and I send this message to everybody to go to the new camp. This is temporary camp. This is safe camp for them. This is what I'm trying just now to tell people about that. Till now, also we are talking about spreading the awareness about the COVID, about everything, and we make posters, especially yesterday, and we pass it everywhere, here and in Lidl's markets point, and we are telling the people to stay in a safe place, not to crowding, because they're very dangerous for everybody for COVID-19. So we are trying our best to do that. And also we are talking about just now our members of Moria White Helmet now taking care about the waste management right now, and we are cleaning the area. Yes, ma'am. Any question?
What is the situation right now in the new camp? Is there any improvement regarding and compared to the former camp in Moria?
Actually, some people move this a new camp from Arabs and from Afghanistan's family, and we are in contact with people there. At the beginning, it is, as they said, it is bad, but now they are trying their best to make this temporary camp it's good, like giving them some services for the washers, some toilets, some, because they are missing these things, especially for the water, and they're providing some kind of food for the people there. Also, they said, and they passed the message to us yesterday, to continue the asylum services for everybody, to register this in this new camp. Otherwise, they will lose their asylum service. So we are trying to telling people to move to the new camp. This is what we are trying. Otherwise, we will stay. Till now, we are under the olive trees here and there. And you can see, if you have seen right now, I am under the trees right now near Al Salam Center, because a lot of families right now here, especially Arab people, and I'm trying to tell them to move to safe places, to take medication, to take services, to take food, to take everything. Otherwise, there will be problems. And we are, as always before in Moria camp, we are missing many things. And we are very bad, very sad for what happened to Moria camp, especially the people who lived outside the fence of Moria camp, like me, for example, at the zone 12, it's 100% burned, zone 11 also, other zones also. Now you can see the Moria camp, it's almost burned. So we are very sad for that. It was before our living. Right now we are in the stock, we are living at the streets. So what we need to everybody around the world to consider us, to respect us as a human, because we are at the end, we are part of you. We lose everything, especially the Syrian people, we lose everything in our country, and we came here for one reason, because of the war. We came here looking in a safe area. And this is the safe area, what we are looking for. It is very hard for us. So what we need a safe area to end our life. We don't need money. We don't need clothes. We don't need shoes. We don't need anything. I think what we need a safe area to end our life. So please.
Oh, I think we lost the connection to Right. So I suggest that we continue with Ellie. You're also in Lesbos and you've been there also for quite a while. So could you elaborate a little bit on the situation, on the past, and on what is happening now and the demands?
Sure. So I would like to, can you hear me? I hope. I would like to start my presentation by clarifying that Moria should by no means be understood as a sad and unfortunate example of bad migration management in a frontline member state, but rather as a symptomatic case of the failure of the European asylum system. The Moria camp was a hotspot set up pursuant to the so-called hotspot approach introduced in May 2015 by the European Commission in its European Agenda on Migration. Now, the agenda did not provide for a definition for what the hotspot is, but rather a description of how the hotspot approach is to be understood in practice. In rough terms, the idea was to create areas at the EU's external borders facing disproportionate migratory pressure, where, under the coordination of the Commission, EASO, Frontex, and Europol, we'll be working together with member states to identify, register, and fingerprint migrants and channel them into asylum procedures, relocation, or returns. So hotspots seem to be initially conceived as reception and identification centers, and they were also very much connected with the relocation scheme, relocation to other member states, and hence they were to a certain extent branded as a solidarity measure. Nevertheless, the adoption of the EU-Turkey statement in March 2016 changed the character of the Greek hotspots fundamentally. It practically put an end to relocation for all new arrivals and made returns to Turkey the main focus of the hotspot approach. Now, from that moment on, Greece has been issuing return decisions for every third country national arriving to the hotspots as they arrive at the very moment, only to suspend such deportation decisions for the period that their asylum application is pending. Further, a measure of geographical restriction on the Greek islands is imposed on the applicants for the duration of the asylum procedure. At the same time, their asylum applications are to be processed under the so-called fast-track border procedures, which do not provide any procedural guarantees and focus on admissibility filtering, using notions like the safe third country concept and specifically the application of Turkey as a safe third country in their applications. To also facilitate returns, Greece has introduced the so-called low-profile detention scheme, whereby applicants coming from what are understood as low refugee-producing countries are detained upon arrival to the hotspots, while this year Greece has also adopted legislation making detention the rule rather than the last resort, and also speaking of closed camps. Now, containment on the Greek islands is not only considered necessary for the implementation of the EU-Turkey statement, but also in order to minimize the risk of onward movements of migrants to Europe. So the hotspots have transformed from what was initially branded as a solidarity measure into effective externalization instruments. Against this backdrop, the implementation of the hotspot approach in Greece has led to unfair and biased asylum procedures, arbitrary and discriminatory detention, and squalid living and detention conditions for the asylum seekers. I would like to give you some examples from my experience in the field in order to substantiate this statement. So on the one hand, the asylum applications of Syrian nationals are summarily rejected on the basis that Turkey is a safer country for them, without taking into consideration their particular circumstances, such as age, gender, and ethnic background. Turkey is consistently being considered by both EASO and the Greek asylum as a safer country for Kurdish Syrians, including the ones fleeing the Turkish occupation in Afrin, or for 18-year-old single unmarried women from Syria. Prior experiences of refoulement or pushbacks by Turkey to Syria are dismissed as single events which are not expected to be repeated in case these persons are returned to Turkey under the EU-Turkey statement. In an effort to expedite the asylum procedures, asylum seekers are not granted any time for preparation of their asylum interviews. Their interviews are now scheduled, or before the end of Moria, let's say, scheduled one day after their arrival. In the greatest majority of the cases, before even their medical and vulnerability assessment had been completed. So it was impossible for these persons to access legal aid prior to the asylum interview. In case where lawyers would represent asylum seekers, we would have only until 2:30 in the afternoon of the day after the interview to submit legal memos. At the same time, although according to the EU Asylum Procedures Directive, it is the obligation of the state to provide free legal aid, the appeal procedure, there are no state free legal aid lawyers registered with the Asylum Office of Lesbos. Nevertheless, the issuance and notification of negative decisions never stopped, although no free legal aid can be provided. And free legal aid NGOs cannot cover the increased needs, also in view of the tight deadlines. So the average time to access audio recording of the interviews, which is necessary for the drafting of the appeal application, is 1.5 months due to data protection protocols, while at the same time we only have 10 or 5 days to draft the appeals. And it is also very important to know that the deadlines for the submission of appeals were not suspended during the lockdown of Moria, although people could not physically access lawyers, and they have not suspended, not even after the fire. So we have received no information as to the suspension of any deadline connected with the asylum procedure. There are no assessment and certification services for victims of torture or gender-based violence, which makes it impossible to substantiate their claims. And obviously, this is also due to the fact that the medical capacity of the island is very, very limited. Third country nationals are detained in the pre-removal center of Moria, are detained there in squalid conditions. There is no doctor. The only medical staff of the detention center is one psychologist, despite repeated recommendations by the Committee for the Prevention of Torture. We have had cases of suicide committed in the camp and in the detention center and repeated suicide attempts. Judicial review of detention orders is cursory. It does not provide a thorough assessment of the legality of the detention, rather considering detention necessary for the readmission to Turkey on the basis that these people have no documents and hence they're a flight risk. Also, as we all know, the containment policy led to the overcrowding in the camp with the very well-known consequences on the reception conditions and the ensuing practical inability to respond to the needs of the persons. By way of example, I would like to mention that we have been representing cases of HIV-positive applicants who had to remain in Moria without antiretroviral medication for more than 6 months, because this was the time needed for their medical screening and evaluation to go through. Also, because of the very strong focus of the hotspot approach on containment and returns, protection concerns such as, for example, complaints about medical conditions, rape incidents, trafficking, threats in the camp are dismissed at face value, since they're considered as a trick on behalf of the migrants to be able to get out of the island and continue their onward journey to other European countries. Again, by way of example, to mention that we have been representing the case of a woman trafficked to Athens for sexual exploitation from the camp, who had her asylum application rejected because she didn't attend her interview at Lesbos. So although all the trafficking indicators were present, there was no further investigation into what had really happened in this case, since she was again treated as someone who broke the geographical limitations and was trying to take advantage of the system. So what I wanted to say as a closing remark is that although we are still shocked by the latest events at Moria camp, I hope that they will at least serve as an alarm bell for the European member states and politicians to actually take stock of the Moria experience and abandon current externalization and border procedure policies, as they have proven not only to be ineffective, but also disastrous, because as we speak, and as Rudy already explained, there is another camp being built at this very moment, few kilometers from Moria, with solidarity or donations branded as solidarity donations, following into exactly the same footsteps like Moria. At this moment, just to offer some more information on the camp, because I see there were some questions, there are no showers in the camp. There is absolutely no information as to the character of the camp, whether it's going to be open, closed, control entry, exit, how many people will be able to live every day. Absolutely no information. And at the same time, the asylum procedures are expected to recommence next week, although right now entry of lawyers to the camp is prohibited, and also entry of applicants, like the access of applicants to the lawyers. So thank you very much, and I hope I have respected the time allocated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Before I come to Lucia and to the situation in the hotspots in Italy, which is also related to that. I would like to give a questions to Riot, because I'm afraid that we will probably lose the connection. So please allow me to pass on a question by Christian Jakob from the German newspaper Die Tageszeitung. We have heard that people are afraid of being kind of detained in the new camp because it's a closed camp. And also, could you probably explain a little bit about the protests, about the ongoing protests related also to the new camp, and what the fears of this new closed camp, which might be a detention camp, could be, right?
Yes. Same as you said, all the people right now, they are afraid from the new camp. Because one reason, they said it looks like a jail, like a closing camp. They will stuck for a long period. I can speak about the asylum services for our people. About we got a lot of rejection for the services for the our people that are, especially the Syrian people. They got on a lot of rejection, and they afraid not to return back to Turkey, as they be hearing about that to deport them. And there is some people were at the jail before, and they are afraid not to be in stuck again. They are asking about why they now making like this closing camp. Not only for Arabs, I heard also from Afghanistan community, because they are the big numbering. They are around 11,000 of refugees. They are saying this is bad for everybody, that it will be in a closed camp.
I think we've lost now the connection again. The sound is very bad, Riot.
Yes. What they need, the people, yes, the people they need, and they asking a safe place for them, and they want to move from here either to the mainland to other European country. This is what the people looking for. Most of people, as a Syrian people, they came for one reason, because of the war. They are looking for a safe area in our life, and they came here and they didn't find this place, and they want to move from here, either to return back to the country, our country, Syria, or to move from here to another safe places. Because this is not safe places for us, the Moria camp, what I mean. And spend now we are in the stuck at the street, we are living and sleeping at the street. It is not good actually, and we are trying to explain the situation for everybody, that it is not a closing camp. I'm trying my best to do my best for explanation for our community that it will be not a closing camp. Every people should go there, enter to register and to continue their asylum services, who got on a medication report, who get an illness, who get an report, who get anything, they should go and enter in this new camp. But they want an award that it will be not closing camp. This is the people which now afraid from this situation. Just now, before we make this meeting, they are asking me, if we go now, we are trying to go to this new camp, they will arrest us, they will be for a long period, they will be for a long time. If there is any services, if there is any showers, if there is any toilets, if there is any food, if there is many things, if there is taking care about us, about children, about families, about illness, about sickness people, many questions they have, and we need to reply all of these questions. We want it as soon as possible to pass it to our community, and we need a word from the people who taking the care about all of these procedures, to give us an award to let our people to go in this camp. Also, trying, as I said, we are trying to tell them to go there. And we are thanking the Greece government for everything what they are giving, especially for us, for the Arabs and the Syrian people. We are thanking them very much. We are here not for a long time. Sooner or later, we will move from here, either to a safe place or to Europe, either to stay here in Greece, to respect us and to continue our procedures, our asylums here in Greece island, or to deport us. So we are dying, really. We are in a stuck, we are in a bad situation, bad condition, and we are dying every day. For example, I am here since 9th of December 2019 till now. I didn't take the decision. But I make an interview also. I don't have any decision, good decision for me, red stamp till now. I am also, I'm an example. For example, I give you, I am one of them. So I didn't take any decision till now. And we have a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of singles who get rejection, the second one and the first one and the second one, and they put a lawyer and they're asking about to make an eviction. If you want to put an abbreviate lawyer, he needs some money, and the people, they don't have money for that. Most of them, they don't have. So this is very bad for everybody, and we are waiting our fate, and we are really in a bad condition. We need to answer all of our questions, and we need to take care about us, about our children, about the families. Really, we are very tired. Since 2011 till now, the war is not finished in our country, Syria. So please consider us. Please respect us as a human. We are a part of you. Deal with us as a human. Which kind of things we have been done? Nothing. So we lose our country, we lose our families, we lose our home. So otherwise we'll not come here. We don't have any safe place in our country to continue our life. So because of that reason, we came illegal to Turkey, and we came from Turkey to here illegal also. We are very tired. So why the people, they said, we don't like you, we don't respect you, we don't go from where you are coming. So no problem. We will return back to our country to die there, because we hear every day we are dying. So where is the humanity about all of these things? Nothing at all. You are sitting in your home, any comfortable places, you have a shower, you have a toilet, you have food, you have services, you have many facilities, and we don't have it. We don't have it. Where the NGOs before last March till now, we are standing as a self-organization we made, the Moria White Helmet and MCAT, our colleague, we are working together. Where is the NGOs before? Just now we are seeing them at the ground. Where are they before? Just now they came, they want to help, they want to give. They asking, what do you need? You need food, you need clothes, you need money, you need blah, blah, like that, etc. We don't need the things what we need, and a safe place to end our life. So please pass our messages everywhere that the Arabs community, especially the Syrians, we are a few here, we are not stuck, respect us. We are dying, we are dying, we are dying. So please help us. Enough. We don't have any time. So we want a safe place to end what we're remaining from our life. Our children is very tired. Our women's, our people. So
Thank
please,
you.
Enough.
Thank you very much. I think this is extremely important to hear from you, as from your very personal
Thank you.
perspective. And I'm sure that some of the journalists will probably might want to contact you to continue that. Before we go back to the Greek hotspots, which is quite difficult after all the things that you explained right now. I would like to touch upon a little bit also on the situation in Italy, which also has implemented this kind of hotspots. And if you could elaborate a little bit on that, Lucia.
Hi, and thanks for the invitation. Yes, I will move briefly the focus on the Italian situation, which, as you know, and as you said, has also implemented after the EU agenda on migration of 2015, the so-called hotspot approach, maybe in a slightly different way than in Greece. We have a smaller number of hotspots and just one on an island, which is the famous one of Lampedusa, and the other are all in Sicily. The fact that they were introduced also not in a really formal way by some administrative acts which were not comparable to legislative regulations, made the Italian hotspots being used in different ways, let's say, by the Italian and European authorities. They were regulated only partially, and after more than 1 year after their introduction. So in 2017, partially, and in 2018, again, very partially. So what their main aim, let's say, in Italy was to make this selection between the so-called economical migrants and asylum seeker, and this was made through the use of illegitimate practices, which were, for example, resulting in differentiated obstacles to the access of asylum procedures. So different information were provided, and different possibilities to access asylum procedure were provided to some specific nationalities. And in Italy, this is true specifically concerning Tunisian citizens who have a lot of problems when they try to access to asylum procedures. Also, a practice of informal detention have been used during all the time, especially at the beginning, where people were somehow forced to be identified in hotspots in Italy. This was a very sudden change of the Italian procedures to when they dealt with the people coming basically from the sea. And this is more true now with COVID measures that are being implemented randomly in hotspot, and also for periods that are longer than usual, so more than 14 days, and without individual measure being provided. And so it's difficult also to challenge the legitimacy of these kind of measures. Also, to give a small and brief picture of the situation right now, we have one hotspot in Lampedusa. This is the more crowded and the more contested. Also, people are usually detained there, but also they have the informal possibility to go out, but anyway, they can't go out from the island. And this is a totally informal measure that is going on since years, at least in 2011. In Lampedusa, then we have the hotspot of Pozzallo in Sicily, and another one which is in Taranto in Puglia region, which has been used for long periods, not really as a place where asylum procedures and in case return procedures were meant to be held, but more again informally, to decrease the pressure of, it was called like this by the Italian authorities, the migration pressure on the Italy-France border. So this is again another example of how informally this whole system has been used. I say this because in this case of the Taranto hotspot, people were forcibly deported from the northern regions of Italy when they tried to go to reach other European countries, and brought to the very, very south of Italy to discourage them to do so. I'm here for questions.
Thank you so far. So we've talked about the hotspots in Italy and in Greece. Ellie, could you probably also say something about the role of EU officers, for example, in the hotspots, the EASO, for example, who are supposed to support, but what is the real role they have? Sorry, Ellie, you're muted. You're still muted.
Sorry. I've been working here for three years and a half, and the role hasn't always been exactly the same, or the involvement in the asylum procedures. So one of the issues that we have faced, again, it has changed over the years. Initially, there was an approach that the European Asylum Support Office is representing the interests of the EU and applying EU normative, although in theory they were supposed to be supporting the Greek Asylum Service, so have more of a supportive role. But in many disagreements we had, for example, the lawyers who would refer to the Greek legislation, the answer would be, we don't care, we implement EU law. Which was, but this is a transposition of the EU law into the Greek legal order, so you have to understand, for example, not allowing Greek lawyers to raise objections during the asylum interview, which is a right that we had under the Greek legislation, etc. Then, because EASO's involvement has been to actually facilitate the EU-Turkey statement, I think it's a little bit hard not to see some conflict of interest in the very conception of EASO's involvement on the Greek hotspots. How do you expect it? I'm thinking of somebody who's working in an NGO, and hence we all know how targets work. How can you be brought somewhere and expect to facilitate an agreement and still perhaps then in your decision say that Turkey is not safe and have zero returns? So already in the conception of the involvement of EASO, we had a problem. The standardized rejections at the level of admissibility. First of all, I wanted to say that in our experience, EASO was rejecting every single application in Lesbos on the basis of admissibility and Turkey being a safe third country, regardless of whether the person was Syrian or from another nationality. The Greek Asylum Service would overturn the decisions that were for non-Syrians because they were considering non-Syrians did not have access to asylum. So in Turkey, so what I want to say is that for all these years, starting from 2017, that EASO was actually also interviewing non-Syrians, until the beginning of the year, there were admissibility interviews conducted by EASO for non-Syrians, although it was a standard position of the Greek Asylum Service that Turkey is not safe for non-Syrians, which obviously adds to the very long procedures and to the very long stay of people on the Greek islands for absolutely no reason. The boilerplate rejection of asylum applications of Syrians on the basis of the safer country concept is again done by EASO. So we don't see any individualized assessment in these cases. To also say that we have a very big issue with the quality of the conduct of the interviews and the interpretation. When we supported a German organization, ECCHR, in the complaint before the Ombudsman. Practically, the Ombudsman found that Greece has to address the shortcomings of the bad quality of decisions of EASO. And so when we brought this to the Greek authorities, practically the answer was, if we have to be checking every little thing they're doing, then what is the purpose of them being here? So this was a little bit the dynamic in Greece. And then, of course, this is also replicated on the other agencies. My concern, for example, at this very moment is, and I want to connect it with the reality on the ground. There have been announcements, it's very official, also on the EASO website, that they will start interviews after the 21st of the month. At the same time, we cannot access our clients and people cannot access lawyers. At this very moment, the camp is closed. Just to add a little bit, to provide a little bit of information as to the character of the camp right now. Nevertheless, you have a European agency which is supposed to uphold European, like the procedural guarantees, accepting to start conducting interviews in a place where people cannot at all access legal aid or any other services. They're just closed in a camp without a detention decision, without anything, without even an announcement that this is happening on the basis of a quarantine policy or something. and still you have a European Asylum Agency participating in this. So I think we were all focusing on Frontex over the years, but there is something to say about EASO as well, for sure. Yes.
Thank you, Ellie. Carl, speaking about EASO, Frontex, about the hotspots in Italy, in Greece, I mean, you have a very long experience. How would you describe the deterioration of the EU asylum system over the years? Muted. Carl, you're muted. Sorry, excuse me.
Sorry. It's quite difficult to find words concerning the situation in Europe, in Moria, in Vial, in Safi, detention camp on Malta, in the Mediterranean. So what we have at the moment, okay, I should talk about the reform, the necessary reform of the European asylum policy. And now we face a situation that nobody cares about EU law. We have already, let's say we don't like them, but we have an asylum directive, but nobody cares. They are not implemented properly, and the Commission is not supervising them. The implementation and starting infringement or sanctions, the basic international principles of international law, the right to live, human dignity, the protection against refoulement are violated on a daily basis. Different parts of Europe, Croatia, Bosnia, Bulgaria, Turkey, Greece, Turkey, Cyprus, Lebanon, even Malta to Libya. There was a case in this year. So this is the situation. So it's ground zero. And sometimes we all think what will happen next to be found. Is there a new level of shabbiness in the European asylum policy? And whatever you mentioned concerning the situation in the hotspot, the situation to survive in a bloody hotspot makes this very clear. In Greece, in Italy, Greece is the blueprint, unfortunately, for the future European asylum policy. And Riyad said enough is enough, and we would also say enough is enough after 4 years treating in a horrible way human beings. The only solution would have been evacuation of the hotspots, all hotspots in Greece, and find a dignified future in other European countries. So to implement a humanitarian relocation mechanism to end this. The wake-up call of Moria, okay, it's lasts since 4 years. We have wake-up calls, and I'm not convinced that the last wake-up call will convince the political responsible persons in Brussels and Berlin to start a new, fresh, approach in a dignified, humane European asylum policy based on solidarity. We have our doubts. You have, I think nobody is optimistic at this level. So the crucial thing is everything is at stake. If we talk about the hotspot, the camp, the detention, the degrading living conditions, this is not a place for fair and efficient asylum procedure. So we are totally against this camp detention approach. So the only option would be to stop this blueprint experiment. Concerning, okay, Italy, Lucia, you mentioned the Italian expertise, and so it was not so elaborated like in Greece. Greece is a small country, it's easier to influence, but even the Italian hotspot approach, I think, is also connected to the Italian policy and the European policy towards refugees, boat people towards Libya. And if we talk about the current state of European refugees policy, it's more about deals instead of rule of law and refugee law and human rights. So if we would create something new, we need, for the first time, don't think this will be part of the pact. Officially, they stressed this. We need a European rescue. It's sea service. We have to end these deals, the deal with Erdogan, the deal with Libya, the pushback policy or the pullback policy, which forced 10,000 back to Libya in the torture camps where they were, tortured, raped, or victims of trafficking. So this is the situation and the way forward. After more than 20 years of discussion about a common European asylum system, there is something in place. We criticize many of these directives, but the directives are better than the reality in Europe. So we would say stick to union law, implement this properly. This is not a reform, but stick to these key principles. And concerning the mantra, never again 2015, we would say never again send people back at the border, never push them back. This is our mantra. This is older, 70 years older. But we have to fight for this. And concerning the current situation, it's crystal clear, it's not the time for reform in a positive sense. In a situation of where there is only a coalition of the unwilling. And Berenice will now later stress a little bit about the policy of a little bit more willing in the club of unwilling, the German situation, the German reception policy concerning Greece. So to sum it up, at the moment, we should focus on implementation of EU law. And what we all do every day, stick to the human rights principles. That means an end of the pushback policy at Europeans' land and sea borders. And end the deals. The deals are is the bloodiest way how Europe destroyed the European refugee protection scheme. The bloodiest one is Libya, but also the Erdogan deal we already discussed. Ellie described it very well, what it means for refugees. They are only an object in a machinery of this Greek hotspot in the mud of Moria or Vial and so on. This has nothing to do with an asylum procedure based on rule of law. It's not fair, and we have to get rid of this. Next week we get this Moria 2 as a blueprint, maybe in the pact. The pact will not be a reform if there is the blueprint Moria 2.0, because then it means the new approach is a camp management together. Interesting, Europe and the Greek authorities or the Maltese authorities. So this is not the option, because detention camp and degradation is not an option if we talk about the human rights-based refugee policy. So to end it, we are the civil society, the refugee community, the cities, the regions of Europe. Hopefully, we are the new coalition to defend these values. And we should focus on this. We are stronger in a desperate situation, in a totally desperate situation, and we should stick on our strengths to go on and create this new coalition of the real willing. Assist refugees, protect refugees, and offer a dignified future in different European countries. And this is also, it's also good for us not to live in a Fortress Europe construct or a collective detention facility. An open European approach is what we want. Thanks.
Thank you, Karl. From Germany, since we are some of us, and the press briefing is organized from Germany, the perspective is pretty different of this fortress Europe, because we are inside this fortress and we are not a transit country. Berenice, what is your take, or what is the German lawyers' take on that? Sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, your question again, please.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. I would like to start with the words Riyad told us, and he said, treat us as humans. And this is exactly what we have to state that. And Ellie, Lucia, Karl, all of them told us that to be treated as a human in Europe of today for years is not a reality. In fact, all over Europe, the states clearly act against humanity for years. And this is a state program. What Riyad said is real. We hear this from all our clients. And we have to see that the analysis of the European states is influenced by wishful thinking and by pure political interests to avoid any refugee to arrive in Central Europe. So I just would also to add something, because we hear from our clients who have family members in Moria that they say the people are afraid to go into the new camp because they are asked to hand out their mobile phones, for example. They do not receive any proper information about what's going to happen and how this camp is organized. And in fact, they lose the minimum of autonomy or autonomous acting they had in Moria. Also, this was a horrible situation, but still they had this kind of limited possibility to take care of their life and to influence it. And this also, they will leave. They will be converted in pure objects of state acting without any security and any safeguards. Okay, this just to add. If we look to the German resettlement discussion, in our perspective as lawyers, we must say that this is a pure Hippocratic discussion. I will maybe in the ongoing discussion explain a little bit more what I want to say by this, but the fact of the German acting and the German policy is that the German government want to press the reform to the of the EU common European asylum system to the worst. And the paper of the Ministry of the Interior, the concept paper, shows this very clearly. According to this concept paper, the approach of hotspot and implementing hotspot system, which was originally developed in response to the rising number of refugees in Europe, should be applied throughout Europe, all over Europe. So this means that we will have closed camps, no sufficient procedural guarantees for asylum seekers all over Europe. So as lawyers all over Europe, we state that the hotspot approach is not a suitable model for a common European asylum policy. The results of the hotspots is detention. And we have this clear reports by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and others who denounce the inhuman living conditions, as Riyad said. So as European lawyers, we stand that this must be changed immediately. All the refugees from the Greek hotspots must be resettled immediately. And what is our concern is that we cannot accept a light version of respect of the rule of law. Guarantees, procedural guarantees are fully implemented or are not implemented, but a watered implementation, which is foreseen also in the German papers and the German ideas for the reform of SIAS, of the Common European Asylum Systems, means that the rule of law is not accepted anymore in Europe in our days. And we have 4 basic demands as lawyers all over Europe to say the stakeholders have to realize that the approach, and Ellie mentioned this very clearly, that the approach which led to the EU-Turkey agreement is totally failed. And this is no possible construction for the future, not with Egypt, not with any countries. Turkey is not and will not be a safe place for refugees. As a consequence, and this is our second point, the hotspot system and the obligation of refugees to remain on some islands in the Aegean due to territorial restriction has to be abolished immediately as one of the main parts of the European asylum system. Thirdly, the crisis also confirmed the need for an individual assessment of every asylum claim within the rule of law, with border procedures or fast-track procedures, as Ellie explained very well, and also Lucia. It's not possible. Asylum procedures like do not provide any sufficient safeguards. We need a coalition, and this is our 4th point, of willing states in Europe. They have to assume the responsibility toward people seeking protection in accordance with the full acceptance of European and international law. As Carl said, we have all the instruments. We just must stop with the politics, not to implement them and not to respect them. And as lawyers, we must just make clear once again, we speak about people in need. We speak about a group of most vulnerable people. And we see that our clients arrived in Germany when we have to defend their cases. We can see that they have a second traumatized experience in Italy or in Greece. And this is something which purely relies on European state acting day per day for years. And this is done in the name of all of us, and this must be changed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Berenice. I would, since we are a selected group, I would kindly ask the journalist, which is, I guess it's Christian, Alexia, and Maria. If you have any questions, that would be now the perfect moment to raise them. I see that Maria has a question. Could the host unmute her? Thank you.
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
I can also start my video if I don't know if it will work. I've been listening very carefully to your analysis on the reform intentions of the European Union and the pact we're expecting for next week. I was wondering if you saw any kind of change in the mentality and the migration approach of the European Union, these last months. I mean, we have a different commission, we have a different also context with the pandemic, we have intentions to reform. What is the changes you saw, be they positive or negative, in terms of the European migration approach? I don't know who would be best to answer this. Thank you.
So who would like to go for this question? Carl?
Okay, at the moment it's a little bit reading in the coffee ground, but what we know from the German presidency and also from other parts, it's crystal clear the kind of blueprint of the hotspot, border procedure, admissibility procedure at the borders will be decided. There is one positive message, but we don't know what is in the package. Even van der Leyen said yesterday, we will abolish Dublin. Normally we would celebrate 1 week. Finally it's abolished, but we fear that the new mechanism is unclear. There is, for example, I give you a wording or quote of Seehofer, Minister of Interior, yesterday. He said, okay, we should finalize the asylum procedure at the borders and then relocate, like we have done it now with Moria and other places, relocate recognized refugees. I don't know whether this is in the blueprint of the Commission, but there is a German obsession, a very broad coalition, to do everything at the borders. So they love the hotspot. They would say we created a little bit nicer, more food, better organized, something like this. So we have the pilot. The pilot will be the co-management EU institutions and national governments. So in Greece, maybe they offer it to Malta, Cyprus, Italy. Italy is maybe don't want, Spain. So it's unclear what is the new. Dublin should be over, but what is new? We fear a punishment of secondary movement. So we would say recognized refugees should have freedom of movement and a chance to move on. But we fear that the pact is focusing on closed controlled centers at the borders, the machine, the hotspot machine with different actors to make admissibility procedure to define who are the good ones and the bad ones. We keep the bad ones. Frontex is doing this and that. Deportation, third country concept. All these negative externalization tools, like you said, Ellie, will be, we fear, in the pact. And therefore we say, stick to the common European asylum system, stick to the international law, and then let's discuss a mechanism of solidarity. Yeah, we need a mechanism of solidarity. Dublin should be abolished, but meanwhile we have Dublin 3, and we should use it, not because we love it, for disembarkation problems. Yeah, it's not rescue at sea, like the Commission always stressed, it's disembarkation, to find a solution for the boat people, and to find a solution for refugees in Greece and other Malta and so on, or Cyprus. So this is, in a nutshell, what could be the pipeline. Yeah, I'm looking then whether there is a rescue at sea service available. Von der Leyen talked yesterday about rescue at sea is not an option, so it's an obligation, yes. But I think she's only talking about disembarkation and not the rescue operation. And I think the EU is not stopping the cooperation with the criminals of the so-called Libyan Coast Guard and shifting the responsibility concerning rescue at sea to them and pull them back to torture camps.
Thank you, Karl. Now we have a question from Alexia. Mm-hmm. Now you're muted again.
Now?
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Annabelle. And good morning, everybody. Thanks for organizing this. It's been very interesting. Because we're into current coverage of what has happened on Lesbos once more, I would like to pick up a question from Berenice Berenice, you posed in the very beginning in the chat. Right, Alap was saying that he suggests to the people right now to go into this new camp, even though we don't know, as Leah said, if there's showers, if people will be able to leave it, if phones are being taken from them. Do you have a common stance? Because for me, it's really the question, okay, if you suggest to the people not to go to the camp, then they will go on living on the street. So what are we going to do in the next couple of days?
I will refer this question to my colleague Ellie, who is on the field there. Just only one sentence is, what we see, and we had this also in Berlin, for example, when we had the protest of the refugees in the middle of our town, that people in a desperate situation have to argue and to fight with other people who are also as desperate as them. So I never could give or I never would make a choice, or I never would give a suggestion. But what I state is a horrible situation where there's no limit to act with people who are really totally desperate. But now, Ellie, maybe you can say something.
Yes, at this stage, we cannot provide any counseling to the people, especially because of all the responsibility that we have as lawyers as to what we are advising people to do, because we do not have enough information to provide the people so they can take an informed decision. We have been requested to encourage people to move to the new camp, not only us, all of the organizations working in the field, and a lot of organizations raise the question that we need more information because there are rumors that the camp will be closed. And on the other hand, we don't have information to the contrary either to say this is not true. So although we have been repeatedly requesting information and assurances by the authorities, these have not been received to date. Even the leaflet that's going around by the state to the people trying to encourage them to go into the new camp does not entertain these fears and concerns. It doesn't give any information as to the character of the new camp. Even whether the camp is a transit camp or a permanent camp, that is also yet to be seen. That's how Moria started as well. So we still have to see this. But right now, the people that are inside cannot go out, and we cannot go in. So obviously, the rumors that circulate in the street come from the people also inside the camp who actually confirm this fear. Of course, you can also consider that might be because of COVID and people are being tested, and maybe the idea behind it is that they will also implement a 14-day quarantine to be safe, but everybody there is absolutely healthy and there is no contagion. But not even this answer has been provided to us. So there hasn't been any answer whatsoever as to why these people are now there, why we lawyers having powers of attorney cannot go see them inside, while at the same time, all procedures are resuming next week. And I would also like to add something regarding the closed or the open character of the camps. The government has been talking about controlled entry-exit before what happened with the fires. So they have been traditionally the last month speaking about camps of controlled entry and exit, a little bit adjusting the narrative depending on the audience every time. The problem is that as of spring until now, that we have had before the fires, I repeat, the measure of the limitation of movement within the camp on the basis of COVID-19 and COVID-19 concerns, that was in fact a de facto detention in a way, because only 100 people, a little bit than 100 people were allowed to leave every day. And only if you had a very specific document about what you have to do in town. And we're speaking about 13,000 people and only 100 people being allowed to exit. And in the majority of the cases, it would only be people with medical emergencies and perhaps people with clear appointments with lawyers, and that wouldn't also be the case. So to what extent then for the, I don't know, to 12,900 people, that was not a detention because they could never get out actually. So there is a lot to be discussed as to the nature of the new camp. And there is a lot of reluctance by organizations to tell people to move forward and actually be placed in the new camp because you do not know what this means. And at this stage, you cannot entertain the concerns that I have that are very valid. Also, to add to this, that the conditions in the new camp remain substandard, to say the least. Until yesterday, and I don't know if anything has changed today, there is no shower in the camp. Of course, one can make the case that there is no shower in the street either, but still there is a little bit the conviction of this is gonna stop this is gonna get better, or perhaps some way of people going, I don't know, see somewhere and have some shower even with bottles, I don't know. But right now they feel they're being taken into a camp with no showers, with insufficient toilets, which is again gonna be overcrowded, and no clarification at all as to what exactly is happening and what their fate will be after this. So this is the situation we are faced with. And if I am allowed to make one remark here too, one would be that something that is very disappointing is that all the attention is on the humanitarian assistance. So let's provide humanitarian assistance, humanitarian aid, Moria being depicted as a humanitarian catastrophe. Nothing is being said about the rule of law. The fact that the interviews are going to resume is somehow welcomed as a very positive development. Well, at the same time, we're saying, do you even understand that people cannot even print out a document at this stage? They don't know if they're detainees or not. And still, everybody congratulating the fact that interviews are going to resume. The legal guarantees are being completely disregarded. When lawyers are now speaking and we are preparing intervention for this, unfortunately, a lot of other actors involved in the situation consider that it's a luxury to speak about legal issues when people live in the street, but it is still a legal procedure, the asylum procedure. So let's not lose this of sight. Secondly, a lot of conversation goes around how can other EU member states help, new mechanisms, etc. And then you're thinking, well, you had a mechanism. You could have at least taken some people under family reunification the Dublin mechanism. And that was consistently and daily flouted. And here now we're speaking about the new need for new mechanisms when we had the mechanisms and they did not, they were not implemented. And the third thing, and I'll close with this, is that there is a lot of rush due to the humanitarian situation of organizations and again, actors, etc., to take people somewhere safe, which I understand. But I also think this is the moment to actually at least demand, even from the Greek authorities, assurances, and I also say this for potential donors from Germany, etc., as to what they're going to do with these funds. There was a very lovely donation by the Dutch government, beautiful, all over the media. We had a beautiful clinic. There was absolutely no interest in providing staff. There was no medical staff in this clinic until the day that the fire happened. So there should be a little bit of leverage at this moment and try to get some explanations and assurances out of what's happened before rushing to provide solidarity, whatever. I don't even know how it's defined anymore.
And shoes that Raed said he does not need and want. Yeah, I understood. Thank you very much.
Well, we are running out of time. It's horrible always to close such an interesting discussion at a press briefing, but I know that we have to close it. Just a small remark also from the organizers. If you want to interview anyone in particular, you can contact the Flüchtlingsrat Berlin, Council of Refugees Berlin. Nora has written her contact details in the chat. So it's the note at 11:07 a.m. There are the contact details. Also, if you want to, for example, get in touch with Raed. I would like to thank you particularly, Raed, for joining us today, and because it's so important, and I hope that we can offer more fora, more press briefings, events, whatever, to listen to your demands and to your perspective. And then I would say thank you to everyone. Thank you to the host for organizing everything and for the technical stuff. I think we managed quite well with the technical thing. So thank you very much and see you soon again.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello. 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 Hello.